Well, hello there. Daredevil is known to be mostly a solo hero. He doesn't like to work with the others because people around him understandably often get hurt or even die. But every once in a while, a big threat forces him to work in a team. And what's more, sometimes he is the one who assembles them and leads everyone into the fight. Today, I want to take a more closer look at exactly that. Every time the Devil of Hell's Kitchen assembled his own straight level Avengers. We will see who was in that team, the threats they faced, and what happened to them in the end. Let's start. We will start with one of my more favorite stories, Marvel Knights 20th. We begin the story with Matt Murdock waking up at a grave, not knowing what he's doing here, who he is, or anything really. He's trying to remember anything at all when he gets approached by a police officer named Frank. Frank lets him know that he's been looking for Matt for a while. He lets him know that someone or something changed the world. It made us forget who we are. The world is a very different place now. Matt is a bit confused at first and asks him how he knows all of this. Frank says it's not clear, as the messages come from notes that a man named Bruce Banner gave him. He's sitting in his car right now. Frank lets him know that Matt is Daredevil, man without fear, and the world needs him now more than ever. Matt thinks he's a bit crazy at first and decides to escape. That's when Frank grabs him and tries to stop him, pulling off his suit and revealing the big red DD sign. And that's when it hits Matt. He starts remembering everything. His past life, losses, pains, and a lot more. He gets emotionally destroyed and punches Frank, then escapes. Punisher just goes back to his own car and says, well, this one did not work, on to the next. And that's when we see a list of all people Frank has been going through, trying to make them remember. And here's where we get some context. Basically, the entire world has forgotten who they are. Tony Stark is now just a good old regular scammer sitting in prison. Fantastic Four is just a normal family out for dinner. It's like the superheroes never existed. And Punisher, aligned with Bruce Banner, is now on recruiting spree and trying to make people remember again. All of this came to Bruce Banner in form of notes. Notes he's been finding in his home after he slept. Notes that he showed to Frank, and Frank remembered them. Something woke up in his mind, and that's why they're driving around right now trying to make others remember too. We go back to Daredevil as he's sitting on the rooftop, afraid, lost, and praying. And as he prays, Karen Page appears in front of him. He remembers she died, so how could she be here? It seems to just be a part of his imagination, right? Meanwhile, Punisher and Bruce Banner reach the mysterious house, the source from where the notes come from. They're greeted by the two twins, who reveal that the notes were left by their mother, the mother named Wanda Maximoff. She lets them know that everyone in the world is lost right now, and that they will need to do some heavy lifting to get the world back, and remember who they truly are. She speaks vaguely, but ultimately tells them to continue on their journey, as they are on the right path. The duo continues on recruiting and reach Elektra Nachios, who does not want to go with them and begins fighting Punisher, saying she has many scars she does not remember about, but does not prefer to trust strangers. And that's when Daredevil appears, fully suited up, telling them to stop, as they have a job to do, bring the world back together. But to do that, they need to recruit one more person, and his name is T'Challa. And here's where we get one of the main reveals. What happened that caused the wipe? We see Reed Richards and T'Challa standing in front of a big safe from some months back. They call it a machine. A machine can erase all knowledge and trace of people from the world. It is very powerful, and they say that it should be protected at all costs in the most secure space on the planet. That's why Reed is giving the machine to T'Challa, so it can be stored in Wakanda. But then, just a few moments later, we see T'Challa and his escort get assaulted as they leave the building. And the second that happens, Black Panther wakes up, not knowing where he is or who he is anymore. He seems to be working as a caretaker at a local orphanage somewhere in New York, and the life seems to be going okay. Until one day he gets a visit from his ancestors in a dream. They let him know that he is the Black Panther, he is the king, and he needs to find the truth. So he decides to suit up and start looking. Meanwhile, Daredevil leads his assembled team to a big building, saying he feels this is where they need to be. This might be the place that will help them to find the answers. And would you know, this is Fisk Tower, and on top, Wilson Fisk resides and gives out orders. He's been waiting for them this whole time, as they have been followed and watched over since the beginning in the graveyard, by Bullseye. But Fisk is not alone, as we can see there is one more person with him, Dr. Doom. Doom sees them and lets Fisk know he must depart. In Doom's words, Golden Dragon guarding the machine may wake up soon, and he does not want to be there when it happens. Victor seems very condescending of Fisk and tells him everything as he puts in child terms. And once they reach the roof, Fisk starts losing his temper and simply starts pummeling Doom, saying how long does Doom expect him to withstand all the insults. Doom begins firing at Fisk with a giant beam, saying he is the king and he will not allow betrayal. But to my surprise, and I'm very sure many other readers too, Fisk withstands all of that, comes up to Doom, and tells him to never make him kneel again, breaking his arms and simply dropping him off the building. Although it is revealed that it was a Doombot, not the real Doctor Doom. But it was still a very cool and unexpected scene in my opinion. The team moves into the building and finds Black Panther here, who's already fighting all of the assembled assassins here and is a bit overwhelmed. So they help him out. They bicker and fight for a bit as T'Challa thinks they are enemies, but they stop shortly after. Together, they prepare for the final battle, Daredevil and his crew against Fisk and his crew, who has Bullseye, Shocker, Tombstone, and a lot more on his side. The battle goes on for some time, but of course the heroes prevail in the end, with the last fight being between Daredevil and Kingpin, where Matt puts Fisk down with one strong punch straight to the jaw. And well, not gonna lie, having Hulk on their side helped them quite a bit as well, you know. They reach the machine and are ready to act, as T'Challa is able to open it with his face scan. Together, they face the golden dragon whom Doom was afraid of, the Sentry, Robert Reynolds. He tells them they cannot stop the machine. They've tried many times in the past, and he simply erased their minds. It will not be allowed. Why, you may ask? Well, he shows them the future of what happens if they decide to do it. Complete destruction. All of it will be caused if superheroes will be allowed to exist further. Then a recording is played. A recording of Matt Murdock, letting them know to stop, to abandon the journey and go back to their new lives, as bringing the world's memories back together is not worth it. It will only lead to the ultimate apocalypse. Matt starts to doubt himself. If they should really stop the machine or just let it be. They seem to have a somewhat happy life now. But Punisher does not buy it. He'd rather live in a truthful pain than in a sweet lie. To that, Sentry asks, how does Frank intend to stop him? Does he plan to shoot Sentry in the face? What's his plan? He cannot do anything. And to that, Frank says, well, you must have not met all of us yet. He shoots Banner in his stomach, and that's when Hulk wakes up once again. He takes Sentry and simply throws him out of the building, as the two begin an intense fight on the street. Meanwhile, the team has some time to think on the final decision. Should they lead the world back to normal? Daredevil asks of Karen, who's still with him this whole time, what should he do? When she simply replies, do you really want to give up? Give up your life for some possible prophecy that still did not happen yet? I know you, Matt Murdock. The one thing you will never do is give up. You are the man without fear after all. And that gives Matt enough confidence to pull the trigger and bring the world back to normal. We see everything flash white and then we see Spider-Man swinging on the streets. We see Thor and Iron Man flying in the sky. And amidst all of this we see Daredevil. Unlike them, he remembers everything. Elektra comes to see him and asks if Karen was really his imagination. Or maybe that was an angel sent to Matt by God, back when he was praying on that rooftop, to guide him. He replies that no matter what it was, they will need to continue doing what they do best. Be worthy of this world and to delay the end for as soon as possible. And that's the end of the story. One of the most underrated Daredevil stories in my opinion, and a decent read if you wanted a somewhat of a fresh story in a vacuum. Seeing Fisk topple Doom, and then seeing Daredevil team up with Black Panther, Punisher, Elektra, and Hulk, basically forming a team I did not expect to see, ended up being a comic book I did not know I need, but I really liked it. And it's not every day you get to see Daredevil basically save the world. It doesn't happen very often, and that was pretty fresh. And now we're going back a couple of decades, back where it all started. The original Daredevil team, you could say, or as it's officially called, the Marvel Knights. The story starts with Matt chasing a small-time crook who just robbed a store, when suddenly, Punisher appears and stops the guy in his own fashion. He lets the devil know that something a bit out of his league is happening in New York. Some unnaturally strong creatures are attacking gangs all over town and create full-on earthquakes that make New York tremble. So Matt may need to consider calling in Avengers or Fantastic Four. They didn't listen to Punisher, but they might listen to Daredevil. Matt decides to see it for himself first, but realizes Punisher would not have a reason to lie. This might be a big threat and he may need additional support. He finds his first potential recruits, Black Widow and Dagger, who are currently in the area and gets them to come with him. Black Widow used to operate on street level of New York quite often actually, something we don't get to see much anymore. Her and Matt had a pretty long lasting relationship a while back too, but that's a different topic. They get to the scene of crime and find a large bottomless hole. It looks like someone just dug up a tunnel and simply stole the gangs from under the ground. Meanwhile, Punisher follows them. As they dive in, they get attacked by an army of yellow mole-like creatures. Black Widow and Dagger fall down and get separated, as Daredevil is left to fight alone. Thankfully, Punisher comes to rescue, and together they manage to fight them off. And here's where we get some of that nice banter between the two. Similar to how they are in the show. Not exactly friends, but still work together for the good of everyone. As they come to the main perpetrator's hideout, Daredevil remarks that maybe he should have called the Avengers after all, as New York starts trembling. We find out that all of this is doing of the troll Ulik. If you don't know, Ulik comes from Asgard and is one of the strongest creatures in Thor's home realm. I mean, he even bested Thor himself a few times, so that's a big threat, especially for these two. Ulik is unearthed to find a lost artifact from Asgard, an artifact that is currently held with one of New York's gangs. That's why he's been attacking them. The artifact will seemingly help him take over Asgard or something, I'm not 100% sure. But regardless, Daredevil realizes that they need to split up. Daredevil goes out to find the artifact, while Punisher tries to buy some time. Meanwhile, Dagger and Widow meet Shang-Chi, whose entire home was shaking from all the pounding, so he joined in on the fun. Together they start fighting off hordes of trolls. Meanwhile, Oleg sees that Punisher is all alone and is a bit offended by that there's only one warrior there to face him. He gets Punisher down from his high ground immediately and goes in for a kill. Punisher uses everything he has, but of course bullets don't do anything to the guy. A big explosive shot manages to get Punisher some time though. Daredevil manages to find the artifact from one of the gangs on top of them and takes it by force, as New York continues having earthquakes. Punisher, meanwhile, is faring well, but once he runs out of ammunition, Oleg grabs him. Frank tries to stab Oleg, but the knife simply breaks. And that's when Frank realizes that this might be his death, so he will take all of them with him, pulling out a spent plutonium grenade. Dagger, Widow and Shang-Chi are also getting overwhelmed and realize they might be going down too. And that's when Daredevil shows up with an artifact, asking Oleg to let Frank go and leave Earth, in exchange granting them the artifact. Oleg calls Daredevil the Crimson One, and thanks him for the gift, promising to stop the earthquake and go back to Asgard. And there's that. The team won, I suppose? I have a feeling Thor will have some more problems on his hand later on, but New York is saved. So there's that. Even though the victory was a bit questionable, the team realizes they wouldn't have stopped the New York destruction alone, and they could work well together. Sometime later, Moon Knight finds Daredevil and asks him if he can join the team, mentioning he will provide all of the financing, which Daredevil agrees to. Moon Knight establishes their new base in one of Manhattan's central towers, and that's how the team gets their own headquarters. Over the next few issues, the heroes go on multiple adventures, one of them being stopping Cloak. Yes, Dagger got separated from Cloak, that's why she's alone, as he got possessed by a demon called Nightmare, and now goes around sucking innocent people into his dark cape. They have to get Doctor Strange's help, and even though it took a lot, the team does manage to free Cloak with the combined power of all of them. Punisher, meanwhile, goes on his own solo adventures from time to time, at some point even fighting off Brood Infestation in New York, briefly joining forces with Fantastic Four. The final member of the team, Luke Cage, gets recruited by Moon Knight at the same time as well. Together, the team goes after the gangs of New York, primarily Tombstone and his own new growing gang, and they manage to stop them. Overall, the team does a lot of good throughout many different issues, but sadly, as you might have guessed, the team does not last very long, as their next villain changes everything. That being Shang-Chi's father, Mandarin. You see, Mandarin really wants his son back in the family. He finds the team's base and sends hordes of assassins their way, who fight viciously, but the team manages to pull out a victory, once again, beating all of them. Unfortunately, in the process Moon Knight gets hurt quite a bit, and just when the team gets a well-deserved break, we see that Mandarin really does not like losing, so he decides to end them for good and sends a freaking nuke, blowing up the entire building. And as the building starts crumbling, the heroes escape, and fly away right before the full destruction. Later on in the hospital, where Moon Knight is recovering from his wounds, he admits that he has enough on his plate and cannot be on the team, taking care of someone else's problems, especially if it's an ancient cult of billionaire assassins. He just doesn't have what it takes to work all of these problems. He has his own villains, his own problems, and his own life. Shang-Chi agrees with the idea and leaves the city, confirming he needs to fight his father alone, and he doesn't want anyone dying on him. And just like that, the team pretty much breaks up. Daredevil makes the final call and tells everyone to concentrate on their own enemies. And his words essentially mark the end of Marvel Knights. And even though the team did not last very long, they did manage to get some results done. Some of them questionable, but it was an interesting read, I guess. Next up, we're looking at the most obvious team up. And yeah, you might have guessed it already. The Defenders. But, not these Defenders. Defenders was originally a team consisting of Doctor Strange, Hulk, Valkyrie, Nighthawk, and Silver Surfer. But in modern comics, the street-level heroes took that name. The story starts pretty simple. Right around the time Kingpin becomes mayor, a villain named Diamondback decides to take over the streets to fill in the void and become new Kingpin. He starts with an assault on all four heroes, because he sees them as his biggest threat, I suppose? Daredevil tracks down all of his assaulted colleagues and mentions that there must be something more to this than meets the eye. As they investigate and look for the Diamondback, Daredevil suggests a temporary team-up, seeing how something evil is brewing on the streets and they need to be united right now. And they all agree. The team begins their own separate investigation and look for the villain, and the first one to find him is Luke Cage, who decides to end it right there and attacks Diamondback. But the villain was ready. He poisons Luke and puts him into coma. Luke is only somehow lucky that Blade was around and delivered a cure right before Luke's heart stops. Very lucky, I suppose. The team later finds out that Diamondback is selling a new drug. This drug is able to give you superpowers. Some sort of super temporary V, I suppose. And that's how he plans to take over the market. But just like with Temp V, it has a high lethal rate. After a few more issues of going around here and there, back and forth, up and down, seriously, the comic book has a lot of water. The team ends up confronting Diamondback, as he has assembled his own defenders, consisting of Titania, Moonstone, and Fixer. And after a long and strenuous battle, the team manages to pull out a victory, of course. The run is coming to an end as we find out that Hood is aiming for Kingpin role now, and he's assembling all of the Mafia bosses in one place to make a deal with them. But the heroes have seen that coming and will not allow a new Kingpin on the streets anymore. They've assembled all of the street heroes on call, already waiting for a new Kingpin to arrive. And the story ends there, basically hinting at the fact that the street heroes are united now and ready for anything, with Daredevil leading them. But I mean, I'm not gonna lie, I found this run pretty mid, that's why I'm going through it so fast. It just had so much water and just not enough progression at all. Diamondback is also a pretty meh villain in my opinion, so overall not the best read. But once again, the whole alliance idea was Daredevil's suggestion, so I had to put it in. Finally, we're going towards a very recent run, something the new Born Again show was based on basically. The time Daredevil assembled an army to defeat the corrupt mayor Wilson Fisk. It all starts when Fisk puts a ban on vigilante activity in New York and assembles a task force to take them all down. All of this is because of his pure hatred towards Daredevil. He knows Matt somehow made him forget his true identity. He made him forget his own memories, and he's very upset something like this might have happened. He employs Dr. Octavius to be his main man, and basically the main brains behind the whole operation. His task force, unlike the TV show, is pretty super as well, consisting of Electro, Rhino, Symbiote Scream, and led by US Agent. And their first target is none other than Moon Knight, who despite giving them some fight, ends up in prison very quickly. Next they raid Baxter Building, and immediately place power dampener collars on Mr. Fantastic and Invisible Woman, shutting off their powers and placing them under arrest. The Thing and Johnny Storm manage to escape just in time together with the kids, and retreat. At the same time, Captain America is stopping a local fire, together with Spider-Man Miles Morales. And yes, the task force comes at them too, trying to arrest Miles when Cap interferes and blows them away with his shield. And as additional reinforcements arrive, Daredevil, Elektra, and Spider-Man, together they take care of the rest of the agents. But right after, they realize they have to go underground and find a hideout, because the city is no longer safe for them. The team ends up finding an old Avengers hideout and start brainstorming there, with the ultimate conclusion being that they need a new mayor. Duh. And the person for the job is Luke Cage. He's one of the few heroes who never wore a mask, and he may be their best chance to get a proper mayor this time. So they start his campaign. But everything comes crashing down as first, Spider-Man gets apprehended and taken down by the task force, and second, we find out that Fisk has Killgrave in his captivity, or as some people call him, the Purple Man. The Purple Man has the powers to make anyone do whatever he wants, and if translated on a radio or any broadcasting system whatsoever, he can make millions of people vote for Fisk, no matter what they wanted to do at first. So he's not really scared of not being re-elected. He'll just make people vote for him again, no matter what. Oh, and in addition to that, Dr. Octopus uses Mr. Fantastic's equipment, and summons different versions of himself from various dimensions, forming his own Superior 4, which I will admit is pretty cool. First polls come in, and it's not looking good. People are still voting for Fisk. And that's when Daredevil immediately realizes that Fisk is gaming the system, and is using Purple Man. He tells the heroes that they need to go to Baxter Building and stop the vote machination by force. That's the only way. The rest of the heroes are not sure though. Even Captain America has his doubts. That's when Daredevil asks the heroes to trust him. He knows Fisk better than anyone, and they need to act. Simple elections will not win this war. So they trust Matt and march on, preparing for their attack. Daredevil, Iron Man, Captain America, Miles, and She-Hulk are all there, but then, suddenly they get attacked by the Superior 4, and despite doing their best, they cannot do anything. Doc Ock army overpowers them, and Miles has to grab Daredevil away, screaming they need to retreat. They cannot do anything now, as half the team is down already. Weeks pass, as the city is now patrolled by hundreds of droids. Everyone is living in absolute fear. Fisk and his Doc Ocks are on top of the world, celebrating, and that's when the rebellion begins to rise up once again. Invisible Woman manages to break her collar and get out of her prison cell, freeing Reed and Moon Knight as they begin dismantling the prison from the inside, starting a big riot and getting out. Around the same time, Fisk finally remembers Daredevil's secret identity through the power of Killgrave's Influence Stone, something he forgot but now knows again, and because of this, Fisk starts losing it. He realizes Matt dug into his mind, stole so many memories, so many things he valued. And as he says in his own words, Matt Murdock did the biggest violation of all. And because of this, he becomes obsessed with one thing, and that's to kill Daredevil. He supercharges Killgrave and lets him out, telling him to kill as many people as physically possible, including all superheroes he sees. With the power of the stone, he also brings Otto's Superior 4 down against him and tells them to throw him in a prison as he is no longer useful. Fisk doesn't even care for the election anymore. He only wants one thing. That's to have Daredevil dead. As the prison riot progresses, Daredevil catches wind of it and decides to go there with all of the heroes. In there, the Superior 4 is ready for action outside the prison already, just like the Fisk's task force. The heroes arrive, see them, and a big, final showdown starts as Cap screams, "Avengers!" and Daredevil continues it with "Assemble." And just when the fight starts, Killgrave joins in with his own mind-controlled army he picked up along the way, and he's ready to destroy them all. The gigantic clash goes on for a long time, with endless punches and screams flying everywhere, when heroes realize their main goal is to shut down the main problem source, the Purple Man, as he keeps on getting more heroes and villains to his side. And when it seems it's just too much for the heroes to handle, Fantastic Four shows up and helps land the final blows, as the heroes manage to bring all the villains down, putting Killgrave out of commission. At the same time, Daredevil catches Fisk and begins his own final battle, while Elektra is fighting Fisk's bride, Typhoid Mary. And even though it seems Fisk is winning at first, Daredevil's primal rage finally awakens, and he begins landing merciless hits, one after the other, deciding to kill Fisk and just end it all. But before he does, Elektra tells him to think. Think before he makes the decision he will never forgive himself for. As all of the other people and crowds are watching, waiting to see what Daredevil will do, Matt decides to spare the Kingpin, primarily not to give a bad example to everyone around him. As Matt and Elektra share one final hug, the heroes win, with the story coming to an end. Fisk's task force goes to prison. Fisk himself manages to escape the city later on with his wife actually, but he decides to retire his criminal ways. He wants nothing to do with crime anymore and wants to live far, far away. So maybe it was the right decision to spare him after all. As the closing shot, we see Daredevil and Elektra out on the streets, ready to continue saving the world. Now, there were some more smaller team-ups throughout the years in Daredevil comics, most notable ones being when Daredevil assembled Spider-Man, Iron Fist and Luke Cage to fight a newly forming band of Yakuzas. There was also a very short-lived team-up in 2016, when Daredevil met up with all of New York's heroes, and they all brainstormed on how to fight Fisk. But the team did not really go on after that meetup or anything, sadly. They just went their own separate ways to fight Fisk right after that, immediately. And there's that. If you liked the video, I'd really appreciate your like and subscription. Share your thoughts on which one was your favorite team up, and I'll see you next time. Bye bye.